Good evening, everybody. Welcome to another edition of Sports Wrap. Fire Up follows us after we get done tonight talking soccer tonight. And I'm pleased to be joined by my soccer crew. Cody is back. I know it's one of his favorite sports. He was elated when I told him on the sports exchange we were doing soccer, right, Cody?
Oh yeah, I know me and Mike are super excited for this.
Yeah,
Great.
yeah. I figured talking soccer to you is like having a Red Bull, isn't it? So, or a Monster
I
Drink.
can
All
use
right,
one
I'm
of those.
glad to have our. Yeah, I could too. I've been sleeping all day. Please be joined by our soccer analyst, Dave Bradley. Welcome back, David.
Thank you very much. Great to be here.
And last but not least, my co-host, Mike Santos, is back talking soccer. I know Mike salivates over soccer, don't you, Mike?
Yeah, I'm just trying to soak it all up and learn it, man. To me, it's just hockey on grass.
Oh, wow.
Actually, I love that description.
Wow.
For all those people developing the shorts out there that follow these shows, go out there and take note of what Mike Santos says. That soccer equals hockey on grass. Give you a little tip to work with for all the people in the technical department that I wouldn't know like about anyway. When Mike Santos puts one out, I'd like to be notably obvious about it. Hockey and grass, people. All right, well, let's talk about hockey and grass, but when it comes to Iran, it isn't a pretty outcome because Iran sports minister Ahmed Ganya Mali under no circumstances can we participate in the World Cup since it's in the United States. Well, Cody, I think it's pretty obvious that things are not very good if indeed they end up on U.S. soil. That Iran, don't hold your breath.
Yeah, I mean, with what's going on over there and between United States and Iran, I can totally see Iran not wanting to come over here. It's like the whole thing with Russia and the Ukraine thing. So I can totally see it. But the thing is, like, how does that work? If they don't come over here, do they lose their spot? Does somebody else get to take their spot? I don't know. I've never been in this situation where I don't know how that works.
Me either, but maybe Dave Bradley does.
No, I can't say I do. I'm still not convinced that they won't be here, though. I think there's a lot of political jockeying going on at this time with it. Um, I certainly don't think. I'd be interested to know who is making that decision, because I'll tell you this much. It's not the players making that decision because they would want to be there because it would have been their dream to play in a World Cup, as it would be for anybody. So I think there's more to come on that one. As a little bit. Are we talking about a sports decision or a political decision? I would say at this point
Right.
it's political. But the World Cup is the biggest sport competition in the world every 4 years, and I think there might be more to come on that one.
And no doubt about it. Well, my next segment, there might be a little bit more to come. So that's a good segue after Mike Santos is done. Before we go to Mike, though, good evening, Earl Kinsey. Glad to have you in the chat room. War is never good. Boy, and that's the truth. Okay, go ahead, Mike.
Um, I, I'm really nervous with or without Iran, but particularly without Iran, that there could be some real terrible things that could happen at some of these matches on U.S. soil.
Okay.
And I don't want to get like the other guys. I don't think we want to talk much about politics here,
Right.
but we better have some pretty good security and intelligence going on while the World Cup's here and the rest of the world's on United States soil if this conflict is still going on, and maybe even if it's not. So I don't know. I don't know if it's safer to have them here or not here, but I'd be really nervous either way.
Well, fair. Okay, because that now does lead me to my segue. If hypothetically Iran is out, Italy, are they in? Because Italy could potentially avoid a playoff to get to the 2026 World Cup. I'll lead off with you, Cody.
Oh, Italy is my heartbreaker. I'm an Italy fan. Um, I always want them there. They, I don't know how they could be such a historic country for the World Cup, the soccer tournaments, but they always struggle to get in the World Cup as of lately. I don't understand this. They won the Euro in 2022, I want to say 2021, I want to say is that they won the Euro. Like I said, I hope they're in. They're so fun to watch. When they're in, they compete, but they just have a hard time getting in. That's the issue. I've always been a big Italy's, I would say, is like my second favorite team after USA. Just like I said, I wish they can just get it together and be back in the World Cup every year like they normally are, or every World Cup.
Back to the chat room. I have some newcomers of the show. I'm going to make sure I acknowledge them. Say hello to Lizzie out there. Thanks, Lizzie, for being in the chat room. And hello again to you, Earl. Again, he's a fan of the show, and a whole lot more. Okay. So, Dave, some thoughts about Italy.
Okay, so as Cody was saying, I mean, it's hard to imagine a World Cup without Italy. I mean, they've won it before, whether it's more than one, it doesn't matter. But they're such a massive influence in the culture of the World Cup over the last few decades. I will tell you, hot off the press today, as of around about maybe 90 minutes ago, Italy were in a World Cup qualifying game, and they won that game in Italy, in Bologna, I believe. And now they go into a final playoff game on Tuesday, and that would be against Bosnia in Bosnia. And the winner of that game qualifies for the World Cup in the USA. So Italy can be there. They have to go and beat Bosnia in Bosnia, which is no mean feat because those kind of countries can be pretty hostile. But they've got a chance. So they could be there, Cody.
I'm hoping to, Dave. Like I said, there's so much history with Italy, and
yeah,
it's always better when they are in the World Cup.
Yeah, for sure. I agree.
Turn over to Mike.
Well, I echo what Dave and Cody say. I mean, it would be sad to have a World Cup without Italy, but I also believe in any type of tournament, especially an international tournament, especially probably the biggest tournament in the World Cup, that you should earn your way in. And if you don't earn your way in, you don't belong there. And they shouldn't be there over somebody else who did earn their way in. So, if they end up in, I hope it's because they earned their way in and not because somebody, for instance, like an Iran pulled out. That would be a shame. It would be a shame for the Iranian players if it happened that way. One thing, and I think we might talk about this later, and I'd be interested to know what Dave and Cody think, but this sport amazes me because the best coaches don't seem to coach their own country. And you know what I'm talking about, who's going to coach Brazil in the World Cup. And he's from Italy, isn't he?
Yeah.
I don't understand that, but it's a crazy game.
Back to the chat room in a moment, but you're right. I mean, Iran's situation is very sticky for sure for the political ramifications. But Italy, like Mike says, they have to earn their way in. But if they earn their way in, knowing that their history in that tournament being what it is, that they've won one, this could be one heck of an event, that's for sure. So let's go ahead back to the chat room. I want to make sure we get them all up there. And of course, we'll go with Earl. I will be cheering for USA, but also have to be cheering for Argentina, as my wife is from Argentina, so I have no choice. That's true. No doubt about this. He does know how to say the right thing out there. So we'll also have a Miami Hurricanes guy out there, or a Canes. And we want to say, Buck Strickland, happy to have you there, Buck. Hope you can subscribe and stay a part of our family. And Earl says, happy life, happy life with the wife. That's true, Mike. There you go. Look at this guy. Earl Kinsey's on fire. Glad to have some new fresh faces in the chat room. So I believe everybody's spoken on this one, right? Is that correct? So we got 2 down and a few more to go. Then Miami, well, we'll make things a little easier for you guys because it has been easy so far. But is something you want to say, Dave?
No, I'm intrigued to see what you're going to talk about with that kind of a build-up.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm not ready to let the cat out of the bag. And kind of a couple of segue, build up whatever you want. I'm not saying this Dave Bradley's getting good at this broadcasting thing, isn't he? That's why he's our permanent soccer analyst because this guy is Tony the Tiger would say, great. All right, I don't know if I do as good as Tony the Tiger. I do miss the frosted flakes. All right, why did I talk food? Who cares? So Inter Miami owner Jorge Mas has revealed that Lionel Messi makes between 70 and 80 million dollars per year. Boy, I'll tell you, he's not going to the dollar store, is he, Tony? Tony,
No.
Cody, whatever. Cody. I
It's
don't know what
my father-in-law's name is Tony, so I hear it all the time with my mother-in-law. No, okay, he's making that. I mean, honestly, I'm not shocked. A player of his
70 to
stature,
80 million bucks, and that's in Florida, no state income tax.
yeah, he's definitely not going to the Dollar Tree for sure. If he could lend me like 1% of his paycheck, that'd be great. I'd be living pretty happy. But like, no, I mean, a player of his stature, yeah, he should be one of the highest paid players in soccer. But I mean, most guys, it's one thing I love about soccer is just the dollar amounts that these players make is unbelievable. Ronaldo I think is making close to that in Saudi Arabia or more. I mean, for God's sakes, we had Dave. He used to play for Chelsea. Why can't I remember his name? He went to China and making like 80 million a year.
Oh, yeah, that's
And,
right.
and he was a good Chelsea player, but he wasn't like a Ronaldo or Messi. But he ended up becoming one of the highest paid players in the world.
Yeah.
I just can't think of his name at the top of my head. But I know we're on the same page, Dave. I just can't.
Yeah.
It's bugging me. I can't remember his name. Oscar. That's what it was.
That's
Oscar.
Right. Brazilian.
Yeah,
guy.
Brazilian. Yeah, like I said, he wasn't, like I said, an okay midfielder, and he goes to China and makes 100 million a year, and he was, like I said, an average player in the Premier League.
Yeah.
So,
sure.
but for Messi to get that in this economy with this, how in the MLS, I mean, still not one of the biggest leagues in the world, but I mean, when you have someone like him, yeah, he should be getting paid that much.
So did I hear Chelsea sighting out there? Well, guess what, people? I'm wearing the hat. Chelsea soccer hat. I know, but it's so bad. And the colors are pretty good, too. All right, go ahead, Dave. What do you think about 70, 80 million bucks? It can go a long way, especially in the state of Florida or any place with no state income tax.
What do I think about $80 million? Oh,
that's why there was so much
God.
build-up to this thing, Dave, because you're starting to figure me out.
The mind boggles. It's just not the real world for most of us, is it? I mean, $80 million is. Do I begrudge that money to anybody? No. If he's good enough and he can get it, someone's willing to take him to Miami, and they're willing to be able to do commercial deals. I'll tell you this much: it's not Miami Soccer Club that's paying him that money. I mean, they may be paying him something, but a lot of that money has come from commercial deals that they've done with Apple and other people that they've got relationships with. So if you can command that kind of money, I mean, I would just put it this way: if someone came along to you right now in the area of work that you guys work in, and someone said, "We want to pay you," let's not say 80 million, that's not realistic, but like whatever you're making right now, and someone come in and said, "We want to pay you $40 million a year," you're not going to turn it down. You're not going to go, "Oh no, I don't think that's right. No, I don't deserve that." I mean, you just take the money. That's life-changing money. Generational changing money. Good luck to him. He's still playing. He's still delivering. And I don't know how much money the money that they've paid him. He could be bringing in more in revenue to the MLS and to Miami just by his presence. I don't know the numbers, so I can't comment on that. But good luck to him.
Yeah, I mean, I look at him as like the Babe Ruth of soccer because I know a lot of big names these days, but Babe Ruth, what he did to MLB is what Lionel Messi's done to MLS. Go ahead, Mike.
Well, he is the top player in the MLS. I'm not going to upset Earl's wife tonight, so I'm not going to talk about the
I
world.
knew this was coming too.
He is the top player in the MLS. And if you look at comparable sports in North America, whether that's the NBA or Major League Baseball or the NFL, the top players are making upwards close to that money, 60, 70, 80 million dollars a year. I mean, that's what the top player in the NBA is making.
Yeah.
So I think it's market value for the top player in the North American League. But more importantly, after what Dave said, I mean, he has put the MLS on the map.
Yeah.
He's turned people like me, who are casual fans, into people that really want to follow the sport and want to see the sport grow in this country. And so, just for doing that, he deserves every penny. And again, if Inter Miami can't afford to pay him that, then the whole league should pitch in and give him the money.
It is true. No, it's true. I mean, there's no question of the impact that the guy, what he's done to the sport, for sure. I've actually had a chance to see him play a couple times when they were in Fort Lauderdale, but like anything else, the guy is what he is, and MLS knew what they were getting when they brought him in. And they've had a few productive years out of it, and also Inter Miami got an MLS Cup out of it as well. So you talk about the ramifications, what it's done for the sport and that franchise, it's unbelievable. All right, well, let's change the narrative and go to North Carolina because with Charlotte Football Club did not open the upper bowl for their first match of the season, which occurred against Austin Football Club on March 7th. But keep in mind, the thing that really bothers me about this is that this match was actually played in a football stadium and not soccer specific. That's why I brought this topic in like I did. Listen, I understand, because let's face it, the Detroit situation, other places have been turned away because they don't have soccer specific, but yet Charlotte Football Club is still playing in there, but they closed the upper bowl. So it almost to me comes out like a double standard here, but we'll keep it in perspective. Cody, what are your thoughts? And Charlotte did close the upper bowl for their first match against Austin.
Do they close it because there just wasn't enough fans and they just want to give everyone a what's the
I don't know all that. I just know that they had to close it.
I mean, if they're just closing the upper bowl because they can't sell that many tickets and then everyone just gets a better view or better experience down below, I can see why they would do that.
Right.
Or make it seem like there's more fans in the arena during the televised game, so it doesn't look as spread out. That's the only other thing I could think of. It's more like a marketing thing where it looks like the stadium is packed when it's really not.
Yeah, and I've seen that happen in NFL games before where they'll close down the upper bowl, you leave the lower bowl, but there still is that double standard, Dave, where you're playing in football stadiums, and some teams, if you had soccer specific or you're planning to, they wouldn't bring in, and that was the case in Detroit. But Dave, what are your thoughts about what's going on in Charlotte with them closing the upper bowl for the opener?
Well, there's nothing worse as a sportsman playing in a stadium that's half empty.
Right.
You'd be better off playing in a stadium that fills a stadium with 25,000 people than going to a stadium that holds 80,000 people and having 40,000 people in there.
Right.
And if you're really serious about growing the game, the days are gone when the MLS can be playing competitive, worldwide broadcasted games now by the MLS. You cannot play them in a football stadium. That just does not give the game any credibility whatsoever. And I'll tell you, for the players, it's a nightmare. It's terrible.
Well, you say that, and you're 100% right, because the United Football League, when it had moved 3 teams so that they could get 3 in smaller stadiums, and now, as I understand, the most recent update was Louisville, one of the new teams, has already sold out their first game. So what you're saying has a lot of teeth to it, Dave, for sure. Okay, Mike?
Yeah, the stadium's just too big. And Dave's right. I mean, the way to grow any sport is through the viewers on television. And if the viewers on television are watching a match and it's a 20,000 or 25,000 seat stadium, by the way, that, you know, Miami just built a brand new stadium and it's only like 28,000. So, and they're the defending champs in a what I would argue is a real soccer market with all the Latin people here.
Right.
But if the stadium's too big and you watch it on TV, it looks empty. If it's a stadium half the size, it looks full. And it's all about the visual. And I agree with Dave. You know, as a former hockey player, playing in a smaller building that's full is a lot better than playing in a big building that's half empty.
Yeah. Well, that seems to be the common denominator in certain sports for sure. That's why a lot of times even teams are starting to build smaller stadiums, even in the NFL. Buffalo's got to have a stadium of 60,000 versus what they had over across the street at their old one where they had 70,000. So intimacy, shorter stadiums are what they're going toward, and there's a pattern here. And I'm just surprised Charlotte doesn't have a specific stadium up to this particular point.
I believe the New England Revolution have the same problem.
Not necessarily, because actually they're building a soccer stadium in a couple of years.
Right.
So on the Motor City Mad Mouse show with Steve Ballesteri, you remember Steve? I think I brought you on with him once. The Crafts are putting money into it. I think they're looking at about building a 25.
They're trying to build a stadium actually in Boston.
Exactly.
Close to where they are in Foxborough. But right now they play in the same stadium.
Oh, yeah.
The New England Patriots play in.
Well,
it's just way too big for them.
Yeah, they did that, but luckily Kraft is actually building one. So your points are well taken. That's just an update on the story. That's all earlier there. So everybody's on target. All right, let's go back to the MLS. We talked about Messi because this is a really smooth transition. Because the top 5 MLS valuations average value of $767 million, but Inter Miami leads away $1.45 billion, followed by the LA Football Club at $1.4 billion, LA Galaxy $1.17 billion, Atlanta United $1.14 billion, and New York City Football Club at $1.12 billion. Mike, we'll lead off with you on this one. What you said is exactly what it really is, and now obviously the numbers speak for themselves here.
Yeah, well, first of all, they're in big markets, right? You've got 2 teams in the LA market. You've got the Atlanta market, got the Miami market. I mean, these are big markets. There are also markets filled with, in New York, they're filled with lots of football fans from around the world that immigrated to the United States and live in these places. I mean, most people, when they come to this country, typically come in through and live in places like Florida or New York or California. So the fans are there, number one. Secondly, they're big TV market. And there's a lot of commerce in these markets. There's a lot of money, whether it be from corporate sponsors or marketing opportunities. And I think that you'll see the same thing that's happened with European football and is starting to happen in other sports here in North America. And that is that private equity will get involved in investing in these teams, and the valuations will just balloon, just like they have in other sports.
Okay, let's go. Before I turn over to you, Dave, this is a question designed strictly from your Earl Kinsey. And he said, do you think Mappa will come to MLS?
I think he meant to say Mbappe.
Or Mbappe, or what? Yeah.
From Real Madrid, killing Mbappe. Do you think he'll go to MLS? I think that's what Earl was trying to say.
Yeah. So, Dave, this one's directed towards you, my friend.
In simple terms, right now, no.
Okay.
Yeah, I agree. He just got to Real Madrid.
Right now, he's in the prime of his career, other than being injured for the last several weeks, and he's just on his way back again from that injury, whatever that was. He's probably the number 1 player in the world now playing in competitive games on a regular basis, playing for France, captain of France. He's in his prime. He's not going to come to MLS at this point. That doesn't mean he may not come later on, but as most of these players do, they come when they're more at the end of their career rather than in the prime of their career.
Okay,
Yeah.
great points. Okay, now back to Earl says that Charlotte MLS should play at UNCC, which is the 49ers' new place. Again, that falls in with what we're talking about in terms of the smaller stadium. I think Earl could be onto something there. Anybody else want to add to that?
No, that's those are the types of stadiums they belong in, and unless until they can get their own stadium built,
Yeah.
it's the right size, you know. And I have a question for Dave and for Cody about Mbappe and all the other players. I think that's just fine if a player like Mbappe comes towards the end of his career. You know,
Sure.
just like we've seen with Messi and some of the other players that have come over for MLS. I mean, it's still going to help the game grow in this country.
For sure.
So let them go. I mean, look, the Premier League's the league, right? It's the best place to play in the world. They should have the best players. And if those players make it here at the end of their careers, I think it's still wonderful for us.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, so,
That's it. I really, it's very rare you see a player in his prime like that, and especially like European players come to the MLS and then go back into Europe. It's usually they play in Europe or in Latin countries, and then they come to MLS. You know, but just remember, David Beckham walked so Messi could run. Just remember that.
Yeah. How about, who was the Asian player that signed? I think it was the Galaxy last year.
No, he signed with LAFC.
Who was?
Son.
Yeah, Son from Tottenham.
How is he going to be? Do you
Oh,
think?
he's a player.
That's what I hear, and he's not an older player, right? He's fairly young, right?
Yeah, but he's still in the category of he was not at the top of his game in the Premier League anymore, but he
Okay.
was still good enough to be in the top of his game in the MLS.
Okay.
And by the way, the top 5 teams in America right now, none of them would all have a soccer-specific stadium.
Right.
okay.
Yeah.
Great points, Earl. So let's go back to Dave here. I give you the valuations, and you want me to go over them again, or did you kind of remember them?
I've got them.
Well, okay, go ahead. What are your thoughts about the 5 that I just named out?
What, sorry, which ones?
All right, well, here, I'll go over them again. Inter Miami, 1.14 billion. LA Galaxy, 1.4. Yeah. Oh, no, LA Football Club, excuse me, 1.4. Then LA Galaxy, 1.17. Atlanta United, 1.14 billion. New York City Football Club at 1.12 billion. Those are the ones that are the top 5 MLS valuations.
Okay, so it seems to me like there's a little bit of a cluster there. They're all kind of much of a muchness, somewhere between maybe 1.2 billion and 1.656 billion dollars. Don't get me wrong, there's a big difference between 1.2 billion and 1.6, but really, the bigger picture is they're pretty much all within the same ballpark. I think a lot of revenue in today's sport world, unlike in the past, the majority of their revenue comes on their ability to commercialize themselves. It used to be money coming through the gate, through the turnstile, fans paying their money. That's still part of it. But as we now know, Inter Miami have built a new stadium. It's only 28,000 people, so
Right.
they're not one of the top teams because they're the best supported. They're one of the top teams because they're up there as being one of the top 5 competitors. But it's the commercialism. It's a commercial game now.
Yeah, and of course, we all know they're leading the way to begin with. They're the model franchise. They'll have their own new palace, 25, 28,000 right by the airport. And that's bigger than a lot of the other stadiums anyhow. So they're moving from an 18,000 stadium to 25, 28,000, which is pretty good by the airport for sure. Okay, Cody?
I just want to know, what were these projections like before Messi came into the MLS? I think that's the real question. Like, I think once him coming into this league and everything like that, I wonder how those projections skyrocketed. Like I said, I mean, I can see why each team is very popular or not popular, that valued that high. I mean, Miami, you have Messi, pretty much mini Barcelona down there. Then you got LAFC. They've been very good ever since they started. LA Galaxy is probably one of the most historic franchises in MLS. Atlanta had a great, I want to say 4 or 5 years where they were the highly competitive. I mean, they had Guzan as their USA goalkeeper. They had Joseph Martinez, who was one of the best scorers in the league for a while. And then the last one, New York City FC. I mean, it's a very popular area, and they're owned by a top owner and everything too. So I can see exactly why each of those places are valued very high.
Very good. All right, let's talk about the fact that the MLS now has announced, okay, a 3-month sprint in 2027 condensed season before realigning its schedule with the European circuit, such as England Premier League, Spain's La Liga, and Italy Serie A. All right, Cody, they're trying to make sure those line up. Go ahead.
So I remember Mike asked me this question if I liked this or not, and I would like Dave's input on this as well. I think it should stay the same because I kind of liked it because if players, were playing in Europe and stuff like that, if they weren't playing top minutes for their club, they got a chance to go get loaned over to MLS and get top playing minutes there, then hopefully go back to Europe and really play better and stuff like that. I liked it better like that, but I can see why they would line it up. But they're also taking some viewerships away because, I'm sorry, if Chelsea and Galaxy are playing at the same time, I'm watching Chelsea over Galaxy. So that's just my opinion. That's what I would be doing. So I don't know why they would be trying to line it up as much like that. But I would like to see what Dave's input is on this.
Hey, Tony, glad to have you in the chat room. Well, Dave, go ahead. Now you have your opportunity to comment on it.
Yeah, I'm a little bit split because if you're looking at the US market, MLS, and as its own entity, then I think you've got to get some numbers and you need to look at it commercially and say what is going to be the best for the viewership in MLS. MLS has to. I was going to use the word desperate. I don't think that would be the right word. After the World Cup, the MLS has to get a TV deal.
Yeah.
Without a TV deal, they're not going to be able to compete. Whatever day they're playing, whatever time of the day they're playing. Because I come from the UK and I'm stuck in a little bit of tradition because I'm from the UK. I'm also a little bit stubborn when it comes to the UK game. I still don't like these games in the UK. They play them at 12 o'clock in the afternoon and 3 o'clock in the afternoon and 5 o'clock at night, and they're playing games on a Saturday night at 8 p.m. To me, the game, and I understand everything's changed these days, and every game kicked off at 3 p.m. when I was playing. So there was no advantage as there is today. If you're a team playing, by the way, playing a soccer game at 12 o'clock in the afternoon is a nightmare. Preparation is almost impossible, especially if you just played a game in Europe on a Wednesday and a Thursday, and now you've got to get up and get ready and get prepared and get to the ground, especially if it's an away game and there's travel involved. It's not a pretty thing. So I'm not, but that's because there's the TV's involved, and they have to do that because they need the money. The TV money is what's making the difference to most of the teams over there. So personally, I'd like to see the times a little bit. I think there's an unfair advantage when Chelsea kicks off at 12 o'clock and they win, and they can just sit back. And all those other teams now feel under pressure because Chelsea won. And if they don't win their game, kicking off a couple of hours later, then yeah, I think there are some unfair advantages based on the staggered times that are being played. What would I like to see in America? What works for America, not what another country thinks that they should do.
Interesting points. All right, Mike.
Yeah, I think that a TV deal it has to happen for MLS to succeed. But I also believe for them to get a TV deal, they can't in North America go up against football, basketball, and hockey. And those three sports own the TV airways in North America from September through May. So if they're going to change their season to be in sync with the way they play football over in Europe, then I think a TV deal, at least one that's as lucrative as they need it to be, and gets the viewership that they need here in the United States, isn't going to work. I think they're better off, as Dave said, to do what works for them here in North America and stop worrying about matching their season up with the European season.
Okay, let's continue on here. Obviously, we'll talk about the World Cup a little bit more. Lots of good World Cup stuff that was thrown out your way. But Earl Kinsey has a question for you, Dave. He says, what midfielder do you like better, Jude Bellingham or Cole Palmer, and why?
Oh, right now, right now, both of them have had injuries and have not got any consistency, and they're on the comeback trail rather than what I would like to think is they're hitting their prime for this season, because now you're in the business end of the season in Europe and the UK, and then the World Cup is coming up. I don't. Which one would I like the most? Probably Bellingham, because I think Bellingham just seems to embody to me a little bit more of the player that I like to see that can change a game on his own. Cole Palmer can do that, but he's not going to go and win the ball on his own. Someone's going to have to go and win it, and then go and give it to him. Do I like Cole Palmer? Yes. Would I have him at Manchester United? Yes, I would. Rumours are that he's homesick living in London because he's a Manchester boy and he wants to go back to Manchester. I don't think he'd go back to Manchester City. It's too crowded there for him. But I think there's a place at Manchester United. So I do like Cole Palmer. I like the version of the Cole Palmer that we had at the end of last season when they won the Champions Club soccer tournament in the UK, when they beat PSG in the final, when he virtually won the game on his own. But they're both coming back from injury right now, so I don't know. Are they both going to get in the squad to go to come to America for the World Cup? I think they're already in the preliminary squad. That doesn't mean they'll end up when it comes to the final cut in the squad. I would say Bellingham would be.
Great question. All right, let's continue on to the World Cup, and we're going to talk about New York City Football Club indeed, because they will host 9 matches for LA 28 for the Olympic football portion. They will host the men's and women's group stage matches on July 10th and 11th, July 13th and the 14th, July 16th and 17th, and the men's quarterfinal match July 20th. This is pretty much a news item, wide open. We don't have to spend a lot of time on it. Just want to give everybody an update about what they're doing. So it's all set. So for you folks that are going to be in the metropolitan New York area, those are the obvious times you can go out there as well. So any quick comments on the schedule? Just like I got it all set up and they're ready to roll out there in Queens. Anybody want to add to it?
It's one of the largest markets in the world. And it certainly is the largest market in a lot of ways in this country. So if soccer is going to succeed in this country, it's got to succeed in New York, and they need an appropriate stadium for it. So to not only to play New York FC games there, but also to have matches like the World Cup as well, and bring international teams to New York.
Yeah, you guys brought up an interesting point. I do believe that the next step in taking MLS for real, they do need a bona fide TV contract. Where they're going to get it is anybody's guess, but we'll leave it at that. Okay, well, the Netherlands, by the way, men's national team selects Kansas City as their current facility as the 2026 World Cup base camp. The facility is in Riverside, Missouri during the 2026 FIFA World Cup. So Kansas City is going to host the Netherlands. Speaking of which, I'll be in the Netherlands probably in about 4 or 5 weeks when Candy and I go on our trip. So, and we were there before. Netherlands is a great place for sure. Cody, some thoughts about them going to Kansas City?
I don't know much about the Kansas City area, but I mean, Netherlands is a great country. I mean, they made it to the World Cup final. What was it, in 2010, I believe? And that was a great final between it was Spain and Netherlands. That was a great final. But like I said, I don't. Is there a Kansas City MLS team now?
Yeah, Sporting Kansas City, if I understand.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, that's right. Isn't Mahomes part of that too? Patrick Mahomes, or is that the women's team he's part of? I can't remember. But no, I mean, if they got a stadium there and it's good to be practicing and training where you're probably going to be playing the next couple months, so might as well get ready and train in a different kind of environment that you're used to in the Netherlands.
Dave?
Yeah. A little bit of inside information is my wife's aunt runs a hotel in Clemson, South Carolina, which supports Clemson University. And there was talk of maybe one of the teams using that facility, not to use the Valley of Death Stadium, Clemson University Stadium, but to use the hotel facilities. And the reason for that, and that made me curious, because why would you use a hotel there but not use the stadium? And I asked her that, and she said because safety is of a major concern, and it was easier to protect that particular hotel and easier for security basically to cover and get a handle on that. And I sent a message the other day and I said, did you get a team? And in the end, she said, no, they went to Atlanta. So I think the reason why Netherlands is gone is because it mimics maybe playing conditions where they're going to be playing some of their games, and also is an easier area for security for the Netherlands players and staff.
Great point. I like that, Dave. Okay, Mike.
Yeah, I'm going to have just a little different take on what Dave said. If I was a world-class footballer who's going to play a nice young guy, and I was coming to the United States, there's probably a lot of cities I'd like to stay in for a little while. And that's probably exactly why the Netherlands chose Kansas City. So that they're not some of those places where they're going to have a wild time and a good time, and they can concentrate on training. And I agree with Dave on the security part of things too. It's a lot easier in a place like Kansas City than it is in, say, Miami or LA or some of these other places that these guys would love to hang out in for a few weeks or a month. So.
Well, the only I say what I know about Netherlands, they ride their bikes all over the place out there, and I'm sure that they'll probably have about as many bikes as you have players, so that they can take their bikes over from where they're staying over to their practice facility. They had to get the word bike in there, because I've never seen so many bicycles in my entire life in one spot as I did there. Looking forward to going back. All right, a couple more topics before we go to the non-sports one.
Portugal will not be training in Kansas City.
Oh, we're going there too, by the way. Okay, now that you brought it up. So, great. I can't keep a straight face on that, Santos. I knew you'd crack through sooner or later. All right, so Brazil has extended the contract of Carlo Ancelotti through the 2030 season. The 66-year-old took over in last May. What are your thoughts about the move, Cody?
He's a fantastic coach, and talk about a journeyman of a coach. I mean, he's done well everywhere he's gone, pretty much. I mean, Juventus, AC Milan, Chelsea, PSG, Madrid twice, Bayern, turned Everton around, I believe, for a while too. You know,
Yeah.
but for it is weird that like for soccer, because like you see other international sports, and they always hire a coach that's from their country, but in soccer it's the complete opposite. They just, if you're available and you can turn this country, this team's club around, they'll hire you. Because like USA had was it Jurgensen was his name?
Klinsmann.
Klinsmann, thank you. I don't know why I got them mixed up. Yeah, and I said, from Germany, like I said, you get so many different types of coaches everywhere. It's like I said, but Ancelotti is a great coach. He does a great job, and Brazil is one of those, countries for World Cups. It's win or bust. That's their mentality. So, I mean, because you've had plenty of superstars come from Brazil. Pele. You have Neymar, and you keep going down. They always produce fantastic players that play for top clubs.
Okay. All right, Dave.
Well, Cody, I will tell you that in the last few months, England appointed the first coach ever that was not a guy from England.
Yeah.
And his name is Thomas Tuchel, who's ex-Bayern Munich, ex-Chelsea, etc., etc. So, right. No, Thomas Tuchel, Tottenham? No, I don't think so.
I thought it was Tottenham.
No.
No, I'm curious.
No. But anyway, yeah, Ancelotti is one of the most liked coaches by the players. He seems to have a real knack of emotionally connecting with the players. And let's be honest, guys, when you've got the pick of the pick and the cream of the crop of people to choose from, and these guys are all superstar players. They know how to kick a ball. They know where to run. They understand systems. They understand the technicalities of the game. What makes a difference is, can you get more out of the players than somebody else? And that's what he does, and that's why he's been so successful.
Sorry, you're right. It wasn't Tottenham. I was thinking Dortmund. He took over for Klopp.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
Hey, Mike.
Well, I mean, I said this earlier tonight, and Cody just said it again. I just don't understand why a guy like this, who my understanding is one of the greatest coaches in the game, maybe of all time. I mean, I know he's won a number of Premier League championships, and he's from Italy, and he's not coaching Italy. And here we are talking about, is Italy going to make the World Cup? Like, it just doesn't make sense to me. And I don't think a lot of other sports operate this way, at least when it comes to countries and international play. The other thing I don't understand too is there a language barrier when international teams like a Brazil, for instance, who I'm assuming most of the players speak Portuguese, hires somebody who's from another country and maybe doesn't speak the language? I understand, like when you come to the Premier League, for instance, you're going to speak English, and if you're a player from another country, you're going to find a way to communicate, or you're going to speak the language and you're going to speak English. But when you're talking about coaching an international team and coaching a particular country, I think if you don't speak the language, it must be difficult. But that's just my take.
There are three things to think about here: lifestyle, money, and control.
Yeah.
Certain people go to certain places because of the lifestyle.
Right.
I'm just going backwards a little bit. Why do people leave Europe or the UK to go and play in Miami in MLS at the slightly later stage of their game? It's a lifestyle choice. When you've lived in London or you've played in Newcastle, it's it's not Miami, it's not LA. I mean, it's as simple as that. So there's a lifestyle choice involved. There's obviously money involved. There always was and there always will be. And the control thing is a lot of time in the game now, especially in the domestic game, you you're not a manager anymore, you're a coach. The old days of Sir Alex Ferguson being the most decorated coach or manager in the history of the world. This is why you hear some people talk about a manager and a coach. A manager controls everything in the club. A coach is just running the team. He doesn't even always have control of who comes into as a player, who comes into the club to the team, and who doesn't, which is a foreign language. And I think a lot of these older guys who have been managers that do want control, they go and they go, well, I'll come here. I like the location, and if you give the money that I want, great. And if you give me the control over what players come in and what players don't come in, then
Right.
the answer is yes. But the game's changing. The game's changing now. You've got sporting directors and you've got all sorts of hierarchy going on between you and the owners if you're the coach, and that gets a little bit complicated. But that's the modern game now. So that would be how I see it. And also, Mike, at the same point now, most of these guys speak more than one language, or they're willing to go in and learn the language pretty quickly, because without that, you really can't communicate with the players, and you can't emotionally connect.
Well, amazingly enough, wait, hold on, Cody. It's amazingly how you say that, Dave, because Bill Parcells once coined a phrase that I'm going to shop for the groceries, and that's exactly what happens sometimes. If a coach is knowledgeable enough, he should be able to shop for the groceries, and I can see your point. Go ahead, Cody. I want to get that in all fresh off my head.
No, just piggyback what Mike was saying about like the language barrier. I think it's actually easier for the international side to have a coach like you have Carlo Ancelotti, an Italian coaching Brazil, because you only need one translator. But you say you got Carlo Ancelotti, who's Italian, then he's coaching Chelsea, who has like players from England, Brazil, Spain, France, and there's so many different languages. It's probably harder to coach a regular club team than an international club. Right. So, but I'm pretty sure everyone has translators, and like what Dave was saying, they do learn other languages as well. So I think it is tougher with the regular club than the international club.
All right, let's go back to the chat room. Earl Kinsey has a great point. USA needs to improve training camps and world-class coaching. They really need to invest in a soccer farm for these young boys. The women's team is out doing the men's soccer. No question about that.
Earl, that's been the problem forever with USA.
Okay, a couple more topics I want to get to. Just want to make sure we got Earl's up there. I'll tell you, this guy you ought to know. Dave, Ray Hudson, by the way, turned 71 years old. He played for the Fort Lauderdale Strikers of the North American Soccer League. I actually got to know Ray pretty well. He's a native of Gateshead, England. He's the most colorful personality on the planet. He began his soccer career at 19 with Newcastle United. He's a broadcaster for Inter Miami. I'm going to leave this as a solo one for you, Dave. What are your thoughts about Ray Hudson?
Well, when I first came over to America and I started watching some soccer on TV, there really wasn't any UK soccer, and if there was, it was limited, but there was a lot of soccer on TV, and I used to hear this guy talking about, oh, that was mesmerizing, majestic, and and the guy had a Geordie accent. I'm going, what in the world, like, what is going on here? Ray is an acquired taste. But in time, I got to enjoy him. Very creative, very knowledgeable, and he obviously came out at a time when he was younger and played in the American League, or whatever the correct terminology would be at that particular point. And again, lifestyle choice. I mean, I did it myself. I left the UK slightly earlier than normally you would do because the doors opened. I got a chance to go to New Zealand, South Africa. I ended up staying in New Zealand and making a great life, great place to live. And I think Ray, with all due respect to Ray and myself, he comes to Newcastle and I come from Manchester. There are not many palm trees in either of those places.
That's
And
true.
even less sunshine, by the way. So he came out, got the opportunity, grabbed it with two hands. He's had a great life. He's done a great job. And some of the things he comes out with, I don't know. I don't know where he pulls them out from, but he wouldn't be able to go to the UK and commentate under those under those circumstances. He would get run out pretty quickly.
Well, like I said,
I believe.
I worked with a guy back when I started covering the sport back in the early '80s, and I thought he was unbelievable. I really
Yeah.
do. I mean, you talk about obviously anybody from England, their language is a little bit broken, especially when they're new to the area. But he's the
Mm,
most colorful, candid person
yeah.
that you can ever meet. And if anybody ever, and he, he's the early part of my soccer days, and now here I am with you guys talking about the sport
Yeah.
on a much bigger stage than I did before. But happy birthday, Ray 71, the most
Yeah.
unbelievable, colorful, candid individual on the planet. Anything, Cody or Mike, you want to say? In my opinion, when people talk about South Florida soccer, they talk about Lionel Messi. Well, let me tell you something. If you go back in the history of South Florida soccer, you go to Ray Hudson. He's a standard for what South Florida soccer was like in the '80s.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
I've
no
never
question
been to
about.
Florida, so I would have no recollection of this.
I only know a little bit about him, and I think Dave's right on the money. He's not for everyone. If you want to be entertained and
Yeah.
listen to the funny things he comes up with and says, or the way he says things, that's great. If you want to learn the game, I think he's got the ability to teach it, but that's just not the way he broadcasts. And for me, I want somebody to be able to teach the game to me when I'm watching it.
Oh, that's okay.
I think it was perfect for the. I'm sorry. Go.
Well, I mean, again, Ray Hudson came back here in the '80s, and now he's evolved over the years, is what he's done. But when it comes to South Florida soccer back in the day, because I think
Mm,
he coached the Miami Toros and he's been around a lot of the different teams in the area, he's the guy that a lot of people recognize old school in South Florida. I know we got Lionel Messi in Miami, I get all that. But back in the day, Fort Lauderdale Strikers was the first team that I ever covered, and one of my best friends is a PR guy named Chip Namus. To this day, he's like a brother to me. So I owe the North American Soccer League a lot for what I learned at Chip, particularly, and what it was like for me to learn the sport back in the day when that was a pretty good league back in the day. It really was. It's too bad it went downhill, but I'm glad they got MLS back. Sorry, Dave. I just wanted to get that out there.
I think it was the perfect situation for the time for the American market. I
Yeah.
think you could have brought out a commentator out of the UK who's been around for decades over there that I know when I was playing and was commentating some of our games and doing interviews after the game, etc. Martin Tyler. Martin Tyler would never have made it in America like Ray did, but Martin Tyler made a big name for himself in the UK. Again, I think Ray was perfect for America.
Excellent point. All right, we'll close that topic out. We're going to bring Candy Ebling on. We have a non-sports topic, and this should be a preview for Fire Up as well. But this non-sports topic is one that anybody can even handle, including you, Dave. This is really simple stuff, okay? Not putting you down. It is what it is. When I bring a non-sports topic on the show, I like to keep it very real, and I'm going to do exactly that. All right, people, non-sports topic of the night. France becomes the first country to force all supermarkets, I repeat, supermarket people, to give unsold food to the poor. What was used as trash before this law, around 10 million tons of food were wasted every year. Now the same food helps families and it cuts waste and saves money for society. I'll be darned. France has got it right. Let's take the stuff over at the supermarket. Give it to the poor. Gotta love people in France. Sorry, Dave, your thoughts.
Yeah, I've not got a clue what you're talking about. Okay.
What?
Something about supermarkets are closing down and they're going to give the food to poor people. Sounds like
No,
perfect.
No,
no,
instead of them
no.
throwing away food,
Okay,
they give it to the poor people.
Say that
Oh,
again.
they're giving unsold food away to the poor people. If it's unsold at a given time, they
Perfect.
refurbish and give it to the poor. That's all.
Absolutely. It staggers me why you've got people that are going hungry, e.g., kids especially, and you've got all this waste in restaurants and supermarkets, and they don't make use of that. It's scandalous. So well done, whoever it is.
Yeah, there you go. That's how easy this one is, Dave. I mean, come on. I can't see no supermarket closing down. If they do, they're in trouble. Well, if they're
Yeah.
closing down, I guess they have Aldi's and all these other places that I don't know anything about. But we're not going back to the Dollar Tree to get groceries. All right. But yeah, that's a noble gesture by the France people out there. And we'll be going there, Candy, probably in a few weeks too, aren't we? We're going to be heading to Paris. I'm looking forward to this trip. You'll hear my golden voice doing all kinds of videos. So yeah, I want to keep it lighthearted. Hats off to you people in France. Give away the old food. Give it to the poor. Let them best that well, that's why in a sports wrap tonight. Mike, some thoughts.
But again, I don't see how you wouldn't like something like this. I think it's great. And as Dave mentioned, it shouldn't just be grocery stores. It should be all these restaurants and fast food places. There was just something in the news last week where there was a Krispy Kreme somewhere where they found out that every day at the end of the day they were dumping dozens and dozens of donuts in the trash instead of just bringing them somewhere to a shelter or giving them to people on the street that could eat them.
Oh, you really hit the nail with Krispy Kreme. I wish there were a couple of those around. Of course, my diabetes would probably go high. To begin with, and another half and make sure I get twice as many pills to make sure I don't go too sky high, which is the equivalent to my only get you a monster drink or a Red Bull. Although those people that again on my bad side deal with the Raging Bull. If anybody caught any of that, I haven't had any caffeine earlier, but I can still fire them out with the best of them. Great point, Mike. Okay, go ahead, Cody. I gave you a mouthful, pun intended, with all that food passing in hand from a supermarket to the poor out in France. All I know about France in the past was the Eiffel Tower and croissants. I didn't know much about it before, but I know a little bit more about it now. Go ahead, Cody.
No, I think it's great that they're making that a law out there. It's better for I would say definitely for the kids. And like I said, I agree with Mike. They should hold it to restaurants as well. Maybe put like a homeless shelter near in each little section, and then instead of throwing away just those restaurants or stores or the grocery stores, just drop it off at the homeless shelter, and then boom, everyone can eat. I think that's the main thing.
Great stuff. Nothing like having to show in a positive. See more positive when Candy Emily gets on. And Candy, some thoughts on that. And a preview of what we're up against with Fire Up. I'll be making my occasional appearance over on their network to Fire Up with what I got left in the tank. Candy, talk about the topic and then Fire Up.
So my question on the topic would be, as a grocery store, typically, if you're looking at an expiration date on something, they're going to put it on sale to try and sell it right before. So is it the stuff that's already expired that we're giving away then, or is it still good, good food, good whatever? That would be my question. Do I think it's a great thing? Yes. Obviously, we waste so much, especially here in America, that it's a tragedy. There is so much food that people waste, throw away. Something breaks, and instead of fixing it, it's cheaper for us to go buy a new. So let's throw this away and throw that away. And that's not just food. It's sad because there are so many people that could use it. So kudos to France for, starting this trend, and hopefully it becomes more of a trend all around.
Yeah, the gesture's good. I'm about the expiration dates, but they know what they're doing out there. I'll leave it to them. They want to give it to the poor, more power to them.
One comment on that.
Yeah.
I've spent time in Europe, and maybe the other guys have too. But if you go into, in particular, a grocery store in Europe, a lot of the food is fresh food. It's not like the grocery stores in this country. Like you want to go get a loaf of bread, it's not wrapped in plastic. It's up there on the top of the bakery, and it's just come out of the oven, and you pick it up as it is. And the same thing with their produce, whether it be vegetables or fruits or pasta. I mean, there's more fresh food over there, which would go bad and which would expire. Unlike all the processed food here that, you see that you could buy it, and even though the expiration says, 2026, you could go open the box in 2031 and it's probably still okay because of everything you put in it over here. So over there, a lot more fresh food. It's going to go to waste. So good for them for giving it to people that can eat it.
All right, Candy, how about a preview for what's going on with Fire?
Fire Up tonight. We are going to be talking about opening day of MLB. We're going to be talking about Scott's done a couple of interviews, 2 at the Senior Bowl and 1 in spring training that we're going to have on the show. We'll talk about. We'll talk a little March Madness since it's going on, and we'll preview a little bit about where the standings are for NBA and NHL since their seasons are starting to wind down. Who's going to make the playoffs? Who's not?
All right, well, Fire Up follows us here on the network. Obviously, this is Sports Trap. My name is Scott Morgan, off Motor City, Mad Mouth. Please be joined by now. Candy Ebling is in here. Cody's been here. And, of course, our soccer analyst, Dave Bradley, and Mike Santos, my co-host as well. With that said, we're going to go around the horn. Mike, how about letting everybody, how they get a hold of you, a little bit more updates on hockey operations?
Well, I'm considering changing my contact information to Mike Santos at hockeyonapitch.com. But for right now, you can still get me at msantos@hockeyoperations.org. And I'll be happy to talk to people about soccer or hockey. I know much about hockey, but I'm trying and I'm learning about soccer with these guys.
Yeah. Hey, that's the amazing part about how soccer got on the network, because I accidentally threw it into one of our hockey shows, and now Mike and Cody started salivating on it, and they've been pushing my button to get a soccer show. And what do I have to do? I go out there and I find Dave Bradley is the obvious natural guy to come on with this show with us. And now all Bradley does is elevate this show to even levels it never thought it would level. So,
Agreed.
So with that said, I'm going to say, over to Mr. Bradley. Go ahead.
Instagram, Dave Bradley Lifestyle. And LinkedIn, Dave Bradley. Facebook, Dave Bradley. Telephone number is 419-90. And I don't do email, but you can DM me on any of my social media. I have no problem with that. So happy to talk to you. Thank you.
Smart man. I don't like emails either. I'm with you. Just get me direct and I don't even bother. But I'm with you all the way, David. All right, Cody. He's on now the network Wednesday and Thursday night. Glad to have him on the Wednesday show. And, of course, he's come on Thursday. I actually come up with a hockey topic every now and then just to appease him on Wednesday night. But, we got plenty of hockey. Hey, it doesn't matter. Cody, let them all know now we got you on Wednesday and Thursday. Glad to have you both nights, my friend.
Yeah, I'm happy to be on 2 nights a week now. The more I get to talk about sports, the better for my life. You can find my dad and I at Royally Quacked on all social media. We talk all things Ducks and Kings. We just did an interview with Daryl Evans, and he was so much fun to talk to. The guy that scored the OT winner on the Miracle of Manchester. He skates with no laces, which is I can't even skate, and he can do it with no laces. And like I said, he spent 2 hours with us, and it was. I just talk, Don't worry about me and my dad even being here. We'll ask questions, and you just go, and he did. So that was so much fun to talk with him. And my phone number is 8675309. Just remember that one.
There you go. Okay, Candy, take us the rest of the way.
South Florida Tribune Publishing Company published a book. Let me get a picture of it up here. Here we go. Scott, our host, the Motor City Madmouth Morganmoth, wrote it. It's available on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Kindle, Google, and Apple Books. The audio version is out as well. Talks about his 40-plus years in the media business and how it has evolved. Lots of good stories in the book. Go get your copy today. There's also a link on our website, www.southfloridatribune.com, where there is a plethora of great content. If you like to listen to podcasts, you can find us wherever you get your podcasts. If you want to advertise or you want to sponsor a show, email us at southfloridatribune@gmail.com. Last but not least, if you see that red subscribe button in that lower right-hand corner, that means you have not yet subscribed to our channel. What are you waiting for? It's the best channel out there. Just click it, like us, share us with all your friends and family, and then turn on your notifications so you never miss anything we have going on. Monday nights we talk baseball. Tuesday nights we talk football. Wednesday nights Scott has a show with Steve Ballesteri, the Motor City Madmouse Show. Great show. You need to tune in to find out what they talk about because it's all over the map. And then Sports Exchange on Wednesday nights. You never know what sports we're going to be talking. Obviously tonight, Sports Wrap, we talk hockey or we talk soccer. Or you never know. We might talk about France. You never know. Fire Up typically is talking sports. So definitely check it out. And again, turn on those notifications so you're notified every time we go live. Back to you, Scott.
Yeah, hockey on grass, people. That's what this is. We're talking hockey on grass with the group here. I'll tell you, Mike Santos, we're going to get together pretty soon. Our schedule's lightening up a little bit on the road, but Cody and I endured an awful lot of spring training. And I'll tell you what, last Saturday when I covered the Toronto Blue Jays, we found out, Cody, tell them the story real quick before we turn it over to you, how quickly we got things done.
Okay, that wasn't the Blue Jays that we covered on Saturday, but
It was the Blue Jays and the Pirates.
It was
Last Saturday.
Okay.
So give everybody the crowd real quick about how everything played out.
So Friday we applied for a different game, did not get approved for that game, quickly pivoted and sent in a credential request for the Pirates game. We did not hear that we were approved for the Pirates game until 6:15 in the morning. Mind you, the Pirates play in Bradenton, which is about a 3-hour drive from where we live, and the game was scheduled for 1 o'clock that day. So within 6 hours, we drove the 3 hours. Scott got 4 different interviews in, all before 1 o'clock and the game starting.
All right.
There you go. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Let's get it out there. I'll tell you, I enjoyed this show. The flow was a lot better. Bringing Bradley on the second time, we got to know him the first time, and now I have a chance to see that Mr. Bradley got to see what the flow is, and I threw an awful lot his way. And even got a little lesson about supermarkets out in France. Great stuff. Don't worry, I'll come up. And tell you one thing I'll say before we sign off. That Wednesday show, the Motor City Madmouse Show, myself and Steve Ballesteri, that's pretty much all non-sports. And if you think that topic was off to watch you, well, you see the stuff I hit Steve with. I mean, a couple little sports stuff in there and travel, but you guys got it off easy compared to what Ballesteri gets on Wednesday at 8 o'clock on the network. All right, well, that does it. Fire Up is coming up. On behalf of Candy, Evelyn, Cody, Spank, Nate, Bradley, and Mike Santos, my name is Scott Morgan, the Motor City Madmouse. Thank you for joining us. Great job in the chat room, Earl. I'll tell you, you know more about soccer than a lot of people I know, and your contribution to the chat room in the eyes of Jimmy Walker were dynamite. Can't do it. I still need a voice afterwards, but you know where my heart's at, Earl. Love you, man. So good night, everybody. We'll see you on our next soccer edition. Stay tuned as well. Good night from your family and friends here at Sports Wrap. Bye now.